M. Scott Peck said, "Life is difficult. This is a great truth and one of the greatest truths. It is a great truth because once we truly see the truth, we can transcend it." So this is the beginning. It's nothing new to the Buddhists to say that life has its difficulties. And sometimes I think in our modern era, we think we should have no difficulties, that somehow just because it's so easy to drive and you can pick up a phone and call anyone in the world, that maybe everything should be that easy, and it's not. It turns out we will have difficulties no matter how rich or how beautiful or whatever. Everybody has their troubles. And essentially everybody will have a storm that they'll go through. I want to tell you this story. I'll read it to you. A husband told his wife, "I'm going fishing early tomorrow morning." She replied, "It's supposed to rain." "No problem, water won't bother me. I'm going rain or shine." And so at 4 a.m. he picked up his boat and his hooks and his fishing pole. And just as he leaves the driveway, a big storm hits. Rain, hail, high winds caused him to change his mind, so he returned home, backed his trailer back in, went back inside the house, quietly slipped back into bed with his wife. He whispered as he moved next to her, "It's horrible weather out there, really tough." And she answered, "Yeah, I know. My stupid husband is out there fishing in it." And just so that we don't think it only happens on this side of the Atlantic, on a dark night in the middle of a storm, John Bradford, a Dublin University student, was hitchhiking on the side of the road. The night passed by with no car passing by. The storm was so intense that he could see no more than a few feet ahead of himself. Suddenly he noticed a car approaching him slowly and stopping. John, desperate for shelter, jumped into the car and shut the door without thinking, only to discover that there was no one behind the wheel and that the engine was not turned on. The car began to move slowly, and then John looked ahead and noticed a curve was coming. Fearful, he began to pray, pleading for his life. And then, as the car was approaching the curve, a hand appeared from nowhere through the window and turned the wheel. The hand had come through the window, paralyzing John, but it never touched or harmed him. Shortly after that, John noticed lights of a pub near down the street. So he jumped out of the car and he ran to it. He rushed inside, wet and out of breath, and began telling everyone about the horrible experience he had just had. When everyone realized he was crying, the pub fell silent, and he wasn't drunk. Suddenly, the door swung open. 2 more people emerged from the dark and stormy night. They were soaked and out of breath, and just like John. One said to the other, "Look around," One said to the other, looking around and seeing John Bradford sobbing in the bar. "Look, Patty, there's that fool idiot that got in the car while we were pushing it." So one of the things, if you're going to be we know now we know that we're going to experience a storm, it seems vital that we prepare for it. And one of the best ways spiritually to prepare for it is to learn to meditate. This meditation is a way of bringing the body into quiet. But it also takes the mind into quiet. And if we learn to do it well, we can do it when things really happen to us. One of the simplest ways to do it is to watch your breath. There's a story in a book called Dharma Punks. Dharma Punks was written by the son of a famous meditation teacher. He was arrested for drugs and was panicking when he was calling his father, and his father said, "You need to calm down." And he just said, I can't, this is just too much for me. And he says, "Well, just watch your breath." And the son, as always, of that age, thought his father was an idiot. But he did it. And that began his spiritual exploration, because in so doing, he began to quiet. Part of the reason we always when I'm leading meditation, say follow your breath at the beginning, is because it is quite simply the easiest way to start. Just watch your breath, and the body somehow knows that if your mind is attached to what's happening in your body, it will calm down. When the body calms down, the mind comes down. And the mind loves to have only one thing to think about. Well, it doesn't love it, it's not used to it, but it does, once it's trained to pay attention to one thing, it will stop its running around for a little while at least. Then it will start, and then you, as the commander of your own mind, must bring it back to that one thing. We must learn this technique if we really want to get anywhere in meditation. You have to learn to be able to focus on one thing and keep it there long enough to have the body and the mind quiet. If we do that, we may have this sense of transcendence, of peace. We might have a sense of, well, it isn't that bad. We might have clearer insight. Something may come to us to change the way we feel. Now, many of you have tried to meditate, and some of you complain that, when you try to meditate, the noise is too loud, and that's just because a lack of practice. It is not beyond anyone to learn how to meditate. I say that having been everyone. How would I know? But I'm pretty sure it's true. That if you would try and practice, you will get there. And it may take some doing, but the practice of it is part of the thing that makes it work, is because you know that no matter how things feel, you do not have to respond to them. Years ago, I did 3 10-day meditation retreats in the Burmese style. Don't recommend it, though many people love it. For me, it was painful torture. At the time, I was very disturbed emotionally. I was going through a divorce, etc. And so my mind was really active, and it wouldn't calm down, and so I didn't have that blissful state. But one of the things that taught me, even though it was extremely difficult, and I never got to that blissful state in 30 days of sitting 11 hours a day, I never had it. It did teach me when I got out that no matter what anybody said, I could feel I've experienced worse. My own mind, I had experienced worse. So then that would make it a good thing, which leads us to a second thing, which is in the progression that you do from being caught in the storm, and most storms that we're talking about affect us emotionally, and so it's not just like the circumstances, but it's how we react to it, because circumstances will happen. That's what that meaning is. Life will have its troubles. The vicissitudes of life might be thought of this as you are on the sea of life, the waves go up and down. No one can stop that. No one has ever been able to stop the ocean from forming waves. Don't bother. It will happen. Your life will have ups and downs. Do your best, but the best you can do will never stop the process that life has been about forever, up and down. And so it is. So if you can learn to be still in that state when things are going up, you become the thing that is steady, and the ocean does its thing. So what we're going to work on in conversation today is how to manage yourself, not how to manage the ocean. Most of us will spend our life trying to manage the ocean. Perhaps there are times when you can't fix it, and it just is. Everybody's had one of those, right? You have lived, haven't you? It is the way it is. So and if we can ride that ocean of experience, without going under, well, we've got it. So, learn to meditate. Learn to watch your breath. If you can take it to another level, then you might use Unity's 5-step prayer method. And it's easy to find. If you don't need to memorize what I'm saying. It's online. It's right there. It's all the meditation techniques you would ever want. You never have to leave your chair to find them. They're right in front of us. And so find one that works for you. The Unity's 5-step method is not that different, really, than any other. It has let the body relax. Bring the mind to one thing and concentrate on it. Now, Unity would typically say, bring your mind to a spiritual truth and concentrate on that. Something like, I am one with all that is. And leave your mind on that long enough. It's called concentration. Leave your mind on that long enough until it actually begins to sink in. And it's a curious thing that it's called contemplation. And when we contemplate, it's not like just simply thinking. Something deeper is happening at that time. You concentrate on it and contemplate that thought, and it becomes more part of you. And as that's coming to be more part of you, you might have the realization that that is true. Realizing is not the same as manufacturing. It is realizing, so the world is round, not flat. The sun does rise and looks like it's rising and setting, but actually we're spinning. That's the realization. When you realize that the shape of the world as it really is, that's what we're after. And so you concentrate on it long enough to get it. And then as you continue in that method, you may come to a point where the mind stops for a few seconds. The stillness. If you're getting to that depth, there's a fairly good chance you won't be breathing either. Because it's said in the East that the mind, that the thoughts and the breath arise from the same place. So once your mind, you notice your breathing stopped, there's a good chance your mind stopped also. And from there, then you come out with gratitude and that you've been through this process. This practice of going deeper, and especially on paying attention to what are divine ideas, deep understanding that someone is giving you a hint as to what that is, through the words of the scripture or the words of a wise person or what you've read somewhere. If you take that in, you can jumpstart your progress by letting it be realized inside you. So that's Unity's 5-step prayer method. And if we will practice prayer, I think one of the things that will happen to us is that when we're caught in a storm, we will have that as one of our tools. Here's a little story. The captain realized his ship was sinking quickly as the storm raged. "Does anyone here know how to pray?" he asked. One man took a step forward. "I know how to pray, Captain." "All right," the captain said. "You pray while the rest of us put our life jackets on. We're one short." Now, many people feel like that their form of spirituality is the form of spirituality. As you know, it's like a ridiculous thing to think that there are, while there are many ways up the mountain, that we're really not after the same peak. I want to read you this story. A ship sailing past a remote island spots a man who has been stranded for several years. The captain goes ashore to rescue the man and notices there are 3 huts. "What's the first hut?" he asks. "That's my house," says the castaway. "What's the second hut for?" "That's my church." "And the third hut?" "Oh," sniffs the castaway, "that's the church I used to attend." So, one of the other things we can do to prep for this whole experience that is coming, the storm is coming, or as they say, Game of Thrones, winter is coming, something's going to happen, is we learn to visualize. and to be able to step out on faith, on that visualization. In other words, we visualize our destination, where we want to be, who we want to be. And then we hold to that, and that gives us a deeper sense of faith that we can get there because we have seen where we're going. We have seen how it is to live as someone who is not disturbed by the storm, and so we have this image. Maybe you pick a hero from the past or somebody you know who's exceptionally good at it now. You visualize their life, or you visualize yourself as them, or you copy them and visualize something, a circumstance that you're in, and you're matching it. Say there was Shackelford, or take Mary from the Bible, you know. I would say a storm hit her the moment the angel said, "Guess what, honey, you're pregnant." Right? I'm not supposed to be pregnant. I'm not married. This could be dangerous. So she's been through that's a beautiful ending to the storm, but it was a storm for her, was it not? And so many times our storms are really just the beginning of a happy story. No, I had a good friend who used to say, "No scar, no story." Or should we say it the other way around? But this is the nature of life. We came here for the adventure. We didn't come here to be flat all the time, always good. Although that we think we would like it that way, I bet we wouldn't be happy. You know, in The Matrix, one of my favorite movies, they said, you know, the first time we developed the Matrix, we had everybody having a happy, successful life. And you could not stand it, and blew it up. I think there's wisdom in that. We want an adventure in life. We want more than just steady state. We want to take a chance. So if you take a chance, you're going to lose sometime, right? Or it isn't a chance. If you always win, it's not gambling. It's just earning money, right? So we're taking a chance. And we want to have the adventure. So in some way, don't you think we agreed to this? Maybe not in this lifetime, maybe not in the moment that the storm hits, but we agreed to it. So let's agree to look ahead to what is the beautiful outcome of the story, where we have gone beyond the storm aspect, where we are the triumphant hero, the queen of the situation, the winner. Imagine, place yourself there in that situation, and then practice. Practice being that person. Let that heroic aspect of yourself be awakened by another hero. You can do it. You are that. There's a story in the Bible. I'm full of stories today, right? There's a story in the... it's about Jesus. Jesus is on the bank teaching and decides it's time to leave. And they're fortunately by the sea. And so immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. And after he had dismissed them, he went up on the mountainside by himself to pray. That night, he was there alone, and the boat was already considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter said, "tell me to come out to you on the water." "Come." So far in this story, we have a hero, Jesus, and a normal person, Peter. Peter is imagining, because he's seen his hero do it, that he could do it. It is possible, right? He's using Jesus as the great example so that he can be that person also. This is what I'm talking about. Take a step. He comes, now, as the story goes on, you'll see he jumps out of the boat in a storm. Peter got down out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. That's the first coming to Jesus, right there. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink and cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down, and those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you're the Son of God." And that's how that story ends. But you know, that's a good example of, sometimes your hero is out there, and your hero can make you do things you wouldn't have done otherwise. Last week we talked about, the title of the talk was Ask Not, right? Ask not. Be the change you want to be. Perhaps you pick a hero from the past or someone you know now, but let's model ourselves, even if they're not perfect, let's model ourselves off the best and highest image we can have of being human. And take a step out of the boat. And maybe we get scared, and maybe we start to sink, but really, truly, that makes Peter's only one of two people ever to walk on water as far as we know. Even if he wasn't perfect, it's pretty damn good, right? I've tried it. It's actually not that easy. It's... And where we're headed with this, is really a change of identity. Because once you change who you identify as, once you become that, who you already are, but you change your identity, and so you identify as, now the storm doesn't have the same effect. It can't, because you're not completely lost in it. You can't be drowned by the emotions of it because you are not as vulnerable as you once were. Physically, yes, maybe. Emotionally, yes. But the you of your higher identity is not that able to be scorched by sun, nor drowned by water, nor burned. Nothing can affect you. You become like Daniel in the lion's den. You are impervious to it because you're not identified with the body as who you are. You are identifying with your, shall we say, soul or spirit. That's where we're headed. Learning to watch your breath gives your mind a chance to calm down. Learning to concentrate on a truth lets it be real for you. Practicing using others as a great example, like someone like Jesus or whomever you choose, it gives you a chance to quiet, steady peace. Be the change you want to see in the world. You become that which you're looking for the world to be and for yourself to be. And you're using the example of Jesus or somebody to be that. You're doing that. And you're taking a step out on faith. And though you may not be perfect, where we're headed in this process is that we become the Christ of our own life. And when we are there, we are a changed being. And this is the great awakening. This is the promise of true Christianity. True Christianity would say, not that you're supposed to have only one person in history be a Christed being, but your invitation is to be the Christ of your generation, to be that which Jesus was or others were, to be steady in the realization of who and what you really are. This is why we have gone through all the practice, not just so that we can relieve our pain and suffering, but so that we can actually get somewhere. And then all the trials and tribulations become ways of deepening and burning off the dross that has kept us from seeing our true metal, that we are gold, that we are the one presence in manifestation as you. And your face is the face of God. And every face you see is the face of God. This is the direction of the whole thing. This is why we do it. This is where you take what seems like suffering and turn it into a blessing. The test of life are making it a blessing when you meet it. When you use that suffering, what has seemed like a loss, to be a pointer beyond the body, beyond your circumstances, beyond your status in life, it points. If some people say that spiritual growth is not by adding but by subtraction. We subtract our identity with something else, and what we're left with is this core. The core of who we are. And then we become like Jesus. Last story. Jesus was inside a boat, sleeping with his head on a pillow. The followers went and woke him and said, "Teacher, don't you care about us? We're going down." And Jesus stood up and gave the command to the wind and the water, and he said, "Quiet, be still." And the wind stopped, and the lake became calm. And he said to his followers, "Why were you afraid? You still have no faith." There's a really beautiful writer, Joel Goldsmith. Here's what he says. During the day, whether doing housework, driving a car, or selling or buying, we must consciously remember that we are the law unto our universe, and that means that we are a law of love unto all with whom we come in contact. We should consciously remember that all who come within range of our thought and activity must be blessed by that contact, because we are the law of love. We are the light of the world. We should consciously remember that we do not need anything because we are the law of supply in action. We can feed the 5,000 of those who do not yet know their identity. This is the destination. We don't want to just be good at riding the storm. We want to be able to say to the storm inside us, and maybe to the storm outside us, be quiet, be still, have faith. All would be well. This is a training ground. Challenges are for us, not against us. Difficulties are how we hone and strengthen our skills. Losses are gains. That which we thought we were suffering, we are only improving. From those who work out in gyms, you may see this sign and recognize it. Pain is weakness leaving the body. And so it is with much of life. Let us be strong. Let's pray. If you're in a state of suffering at this moment and wondering if the universe is on your side, let us take a leap of faith and assume it to be so. Because we'll act differently. We'll find new ways of succeeding. We'll relax more, trust more, and be more. But it doesn't mean it will always be easy. Let us assume that we are more than any challenge we are meeting. That there have been heroes before us that have shown us the way. And the breadcrumbs of how to do it are easily found. Breathe. Meditate. Love. Endure. Wait. See a different future and step out on faith. Let us commit to that we might be the one that we always were, the holy child of God. And so it is. Amen. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.